Welcome to Red Story. Please subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the plot. Want to know what psychologists would comment about it? Read till the end. 3 months ago, I went on a 3-day business trip. On the first night, I went out for drinks with some of my coworkers. While we were out, a man started flirting with me and I enjoyed the attention. My husband, Jane, has always been loving and supportive. He's handsome, in great shape, and constantly compliments me. I don't know why I felt so gratified by this random man's attention, but I did. After having too many drinks, I went with him to his apartment and we were intimate. Immediately afterward, I realized what I had done and left. I cut my work trip short, claiming I felt ill, and went home. I immediately confessed to my husband. I told him everything and offered to answer any questions he had. He simply said he needed to go for a walk, and when he came back, he asked if I had enjoyed it. I was honest with him. No, I hadn't. It was awkward, drunken intimacy with someone who clearly didn't care if I enjoyed it. This man didn't come close to my husband. I told him all of this. Jane just stood there looking at me, then said he needed to go out again to think. He was gone for a couple of hours and finally stumbled back through the front door, heavily intoxicated. He could barely speak. Since then, this has become a pattern. If he used to drink maybe 3 times a month, now he drinks every night. And not just drinking, but getting blackout drunk and passing out either in our backyard or on the couch. He started smoking cigarettes again after having quit 2 years ago. He's been avoiding our friends when they invite him out. He just goes to work, comes home, drinks, smokes, and passes out. Since I told him he hasn't gone to the gym, though he used to go 5 times a week. He barely eats anything. Whenever I try to talk to him, he responds with short answers or mumbles. Today, we had our first marriage counseling session, but he barely spoke. The counselor tried to get him to open up, but he just gave the same short answers or mumbled. I've offered everything I can think of to make things right. I've been doing all the things he used to do for me. Making him coffee every morning, telling him he's handsome, offering to run errands for him. But he doesn't seem to care anymore. He just seems like a shell of his former self. I'm really scared I've done something irreparable. I haven't seen him smile this entire time. 2 nights ago, we came back from whichever pub he's been drinking at with a bloody nose and a black eye. I was horrified and tried to find out what had happened. He just told me to leave him alone. He started telling me that I might as well go find the man I cheated with so I can be happy. I tried to tell him that I've always been happy with him, but he threw it back in my face, asking why I cheated then. I don't have an answer. I've spent these months racking my brain, but I can't think of a single reason why I did it. This man wasn't better looking, nicer, in better shape, more attentive. Nothing. That conversation when he came back with a bloody nose and black eye was the longest one we've had since I told him what I did. I don't know what to do. Have I ruined my marriage? I'm asking the men here. Is there something your cheating partner did that made you feel better? I'm lost. I love my husband more than anything, and watching him spiral is killing me. Please, I need advice. Update 1. 3 months ago, I made a mistake. I posted about it a few days ago. The advice I received was really helpful, and I've taken action on some of it. I'm sorry if this post is too long, but I need to get this out. Many people advised me to tell someone close to my husband what I did and let them know he needs help. I ended up telling his best friend, Catherine. I asked her to come over 2 nights ago so I could explain why my husband has been avoiding his friends and why he's been so distant. I told her everything. She was understandably furious, called me terrible names, and asked where he was. He'd gone to a pub, which has been his routine every day since finding out. She left, telling me he'd be an idiot not to leave me. They came back home 20 minutes later, and Catherine told me to pack my bags and stay with my parents. I tried to argue, but my husband told me to leave. I since told my parents everything. They were confused as to why I showed up at their house at 8 p.m. with 3 bags full of clothes. I sent him a text today, telling him I love him and that I'll do anything to earn back his trust. I also called Catherine to check on his drinking. She told me he attended an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting to talk it out and seems better. He even poured out all the alcohol in the house. She's been staying with him to make sure he doesn't do anything drastic. My parents are furious with me, especially my mom. She keeps asking me why I did it. My dad has barely spoken to me. Every time my phone vibrates, I have a mini panic attack. I'm terrified I'll get a message from him saying he's done with me and never wants to speak to me again. I know I probably deserve him divorcing me, but I'll do anything to make this work. I keep replaying that night in my head. My husband is handsome, in great shape, loving, affectionate, compassionate, and the most caring man I've ever met. And I threw it all away for a meaningless fling with someone I'll never see again. Someone who was inferior to my husband in every way. My sister has even decided she doesn't want to see me for a while. She doesn't trust me around her husband anymore. I'm sure all of Jean's friends know what happened because they've all blocked me on social media now. I deserve this and so much more. I'm sorry for the rant, but I needed to get this out. I probably won't reply to many comments. I'm feeling overwhelmed. Please know that I appreciate any advice, even though I'm not sure what I'm looking for right now. I just wish I could go back and stop myself. I wish I had never gone on that business trip. I wish I had been a better person and wife. I guess I'm realizing now that I never deserved him. Update 2. I know I shouldn't have, but I saw my husband today. I quit my job and am using my accumulated leave to get out immediately, so I don't have to give them my final 4 weeks before officially leaving the office. Word is spread around my office about what I did. I kept getting looks from my coworkers and I couldn't take it anymore. Today was my first day off and I spent most of it crying. I couldn't take it anymore, so I drove to our house to speak to him. I know I promised him space, but it felt like someone was sitting on my chest. I was hoping we could talk. Part of me also hoped he would be at work, and I wouldn't see him because I know he doesn't want to see me. He was home. When I walked in the door, he just looked at me, expressionless. I told him I needed to speak to him, just to hear his voice. He told me to just go back to my parents. He sounded so fed up with me. I tried telling him how I was feeling, but he just said he needs time to think about everything. His best friend, Catherine, was there and she started yelling at me, telling me to leave. I tried saying I just wanted to speak to my husband and she laughed and told me I might as well start calling him my ex-husband. He stopped her, which I appreciate, and asked her to give us some time to talk. She was clearly reluctant but did walk out of the room. I asked him if he was going to marriage counseling this week and he said no. He told me he doesn't know if we'll be able to make it past this. He doesn't see me as his wife anymore. I told him I wouldn't fight it if he wanted a divorce, but if he was willing to give me a chance, I'd do anything to earn back his trust. I told him I'd quit my job, find one that allows me to work from home, and that I wouldn't take a trip anywhere unless he came with me. I'd only drink around him and only if he did. I'd give him access to my phone and social media. He got my location at all times. He just looked at me and said he isn't a prison guard and has no intention of becoming one. I tried telling him it isn't about being a prison guard. It's about showing him I'm serious about earning back his trust. He looked down and told me that was unlikely. He asked if I've ever cheated before, and I promised him I haven't. He asked me to explain what happened that night, all the details. I didn't want to, but I did. He just looked at me the whole time, silently listening. I didn't leave anything out. I told him everything. He just asked me if that's all it took for me to destroy our marriage. Some guy offering to buy me drinks and complimenting me, is that all it took? At this point, I was a mess. I told him I was wrong and selfish. I had done something unforgivable, but I was determined to show him how much I love him. He just looked down and said it's clear I never truly loved him. I loved myself and what he could give me, but I didn't love him. I told him that wasn't true, but he just looked at me and said it is. If I loved him, I wouldn't have done this. That I had plenty of opportunities not to cheat, but I went through with it for my own selfish reasons, and that he didn't want to be with someone who could do that. He told me the thought of being intimate with me now made him feel nauseous, that in his eyes I'm not worth it. He told me he didn't need to hear anymore and that me showing up to speak to him was proof I didn't care about his needs. He said he was going to find a divorce lawyer in the next 2 weeks and start the process. It felt like a knife in my chest. I begged him to wait until I started counseling so I could make real progress for him, but he said I should go to counseling anyway, but our marriage is over. He told me he'd be willing to split our money down the middle and sell a house so we could start our own lives again. He told me once the divorce is done, he doesn't want anything to do with me. He's seen the true me, and he doesn't like it. He told me to grab anything I needed from the house, and that the next time he'd speak to me would be through whoever he hires to be his divorce lawyer. I hate myself. I've ruined our marriage in less than 5 years. I read all the comments on my last post, and I appreciate all of them. Many of them held up a mirror for me to see how awful I've really been. I'm sorry for not responding to all of them, but I didn't have answers for many. My counseling starts in 2 weeks. I'm still going. I told my parents what he said, and my dad just said, good for him, and walked away. My mom just said, consequences, and hugged me. I tried talking to my sister. She told me to go to hell and called me a traitor. I appreciate everyone who reached out privately, even the harsh messages. I deserve them all. I know he won't have any trouble finding someone else. I just wish he wanted to be with me. Final update. I've been struggling to sleep since I last saw my husband. I can barely sleep longer than 3 hours, and when I do sleep, I keep having these awful nightmares. My counseling session is in a couple of days, but I'm not doing well at all. I can't really talk to anyone because all of my close friends are supporting my husband now that they know about my infidelity. My sister won't talk to me or return any of my messages. My dad seems to be doing everything he can to avoid me. My mom has been very clear about how disappointed she is in me and has been mostly giving me the silent treatment. And when she isn't silent, she's just telling me how disappointed she is and not letting me express how I feel. My whole life has collapsed around me. I understand that I don't deserve to be comforted, but I can't even talk to my parents about how I'm feeling. I've barely been able to eat. I have no appetite, and most of what I do now is cry in my room at my parents' house. The thing that bothers me the most is that the most recent intimate encounter I had was with the man I cheated on my husband with nearly 4 months ago. I feel dirty. I keep showering, but the feeling doesn't go away. I just want to be with my husband. I know I have no right to feel this way, but I find myself daydreaming about being with him again, just to make that my last intimate experience. I haven't heard from a divorce attorney yet, so there's some hope there, but I also haven't heard from my husband, so I don't know. I messaged his best friend, Catherine, who is staying with him to support him and make sure he's okay. She just replied that he's doing fine, all things considered, but hasn't responded to any of my follow-up messages. I hate myself and what I've done. I don't know what to do with myself right now. How do I get rid of this feeling like I'm unclean? How do I sleep without these nightmares? How can I repair at least one of the relationships with someone in my family so I can talk to someone about how I feel? I wrote a letter for my husband, but I don't know how to get it to him. I'm not going to bother him, so I'll just keep it aside to give to him when he decides he's willing to see me again. I regret everything I did and wish I could take it back. But I can't, so how do I get to a point where my life isn't a living nightmare? Psychologist's perspective. Infidelity is one of the most challenging issues a couple can face. According to Dr. John Gottman, a renowned psychologist and relationship expert, the betrayal of trust is deeply painful and can have long-lasting effects on both partners. When trust is broken, it's common for the betrayed partner to experience a range of emotions, including anger, sadness, and confusion. The partner who committed the infidelity often feels guilt, shame, and self-loathing, as seen in this case. Dr. Gottman emphasizes that while some couples can recover from infidelity with time, therapy, and a genuine effort from both partners, others may find it impossible to rebuild trust. The key to moving forward, whether together or apart, is open communication and seeking professional help to process the emotions and pain involved. For the partner who has been unfaithful, it's crucial to acknowledge the pain they cause, be transparent about their feelings, and be patient with their partner's healing process. However, it's also important to understand that recovery is not guaranteed, and each partner must decide what is best for their own emotional well-being. In this situation, the betrayed partner's reaction of withdrawing and turning to substances as a coping mechanism is a sign of deep emotional pain. It's important for both individuals to seek therapy, not only to address the infidelity, but also to deal with the emotional and psychological impacts it has had on their mental health. Rebuilding a relationship after such an event is incredibly difficult, and both partners must be willing to put in the work if they hope to reconcile. However, sometimes the best path forward is accepting that the relationship may not survive and focusing on individual healing and growth. Dr. Gottman also notes that self-forgiveness and personal accountability are essential steps for the partner who committed the infidelity. This process involves understanding why the betrayal occurred, addressing underlying issues, and committing to making better choices in the future. Whether or not the relationship can be salvaged, personal growth and healing should be the ultimate goals for both individuals.